I'm sure you've been reading Michael Moore for a long time. I mentioned before I started reading Michael Moore when he was the editor of a little newsletter in Flint, Michigan. That's where he's from, Flint. And he watched General Motors utterly and absolutely destroy Flint, Michigan. I mean, really destroy it. I lived in Flint for about 4 months. And it was horrifying to see what had happened to a city that had been actually a one industry town. It was a feeder city for General Motors. Everything that was done there, they had assembly lines for General Motors, but they also had parts companies, battery companies. It was just a churning engine of industrial America until General Motors decided to move everything to the South or to Asia. And all the working people who were there were just told to piss off. It's a horrible thing. Shortly after that, Michael Moore became the managing editor of Mother Jones, which was fairly short-lived. I think Michael was a tad too radical for even Mother Jones, which is probably one of the reasons I have idolized him and followed his work, whether it's written or in film, all these years. And it has been decades. But anyway, I want to share with you what Michael wrote on his Facebook page. He says there's one absolute truth about Trump. He is a consistent, absolute, unrelenting, fearless, and professional liar, a serial liar, a factually proven liar. How many lies now has the Washington Post proven in these 4 years? 25,000, 30,000? A lie at least twice during every waking hour? Think of all the bad people you've known in your life. Even the worst ones you couldn't say that about. So why on earth would we believe him today? Has he earned your trust now? No. Yet we're decent enough to not want him to be sick, to wish him well, and maybe just this once give him the benefit of the doubt, because why would he lie about this? That's not the question. The question we, and yes, I mean you and the media, the only question we really need to be asking is this: why would Trump all of a sudden just start telling the truth? All of you, my friends, have been saying for 4 years, Trump's a liar, Trump's a liar. So why would you believe him now? He very well may have COVID-19. In fact, let's assume he does. Of course he has it. Does that make him not Trump? I'm certain Mussolini came down with the flu one time. Pinochet and Franco could catch a cold every now and then. Margaret Thatcher must have had a migraine or two. None of them suddenly became nice or did good things or started telling the truth because they got sick. Jesse Helms with a runny nose was still Jesse Helms. But Trump has a history of lying about his health. His longtime New York doctor, Dr. Bornstein, admitted a few years ago that Trump dictated his perfect doctor's letter during the 2016 campaign. Then there was the White House doctor who said Trump could live 200 years. What about his lying about that emergency trip to Walter Reed to complete his physical? Trump also has a history of lying about his opponent's health, like when Hillary fell ill at the 9/11 remembrance ceremony, or what he's now been saying about Biden's health. So, we must be skeptical. We must always remain skeptical when it comes to Trump. He may have it, but it's also possible he's lying. That's just a fact. But why would he lie about this? What would he have to gain? I mean, it looks bad that he's called it a hoax for 7 months and he totally mismanaged the government response, and now he has it? Doesn't it look terrible that he spent months downplaying wearing masks, dismissing social distancing, holding large rallies filled with elderly at-risk supporters, and even killing his own supporters like Herman Cain? And doesn't this go against his brand of always projecting and exaggerating his own strength, his health, his genetics, his virility? Yes, this is all true. He would not want to admit that he's come down with a hoax. But he's losing the election, and he knows it. It's not 2016. He was hated in 2016, but he's hated even more now. Millions of Americans are on fire and on the verge of serving him up a major league ass-whooping and a record landslide defeat. So he needs, badly, to totally change the conversation about this campaign. And he just has. Democrats, liberals, the media, and others have always been wrong to simply treat him as a buffoon and a dummy and a jackass. Yes, he's all of those things, but he's also canny. He's clever. He outfoxed James Comey. He outfoxed Robert Mueller. He outfoxed 20 Republicans in the GOP primary and then did the same to the Democrats, winning the White House despite receiving fewer votes than his opponent. He's an evil genius, and I raised the possibility of him lying about having COVID-19 to prepare us and counteract his game. He knows being sick tends to gain one's sympathy. He's not above weaponizing this. He's been lying about how soon a vaccine will be ready. What better way to hammer home that lie than by directing a saga in the final weeks before the election that culminates in the release of this so-called vaccine? The New York Times tax story was horrible for him, as was the Atlantic story about him calling American troops losers and suckers. There are a dozen more of these stories coming in October. Just last night, the New Yorker detailed how his campaign finance director and Donald Trump Jr.'s girlfriend was fired from Fox News for, well, behaving like a typical Fox News host by sexually harassing her assistant and forcing Fox to pay a $4 million settlement to that assistant due to her behavior. And also last night, there was CNN playing an audio recording of Melania talking shit about children separated from their parents at the border and talking shit about Christmas. Christmas! These stories are about to be a daily occurrence. However, they may get less airtime and be less damaging since Trump and the First Lady are now sick and supposed to be in our thoughts and prayers. But most dangerously, he may use this to push for delaying or postponing the election. The Constitution doesn't allow for this, but he doesn't give a fuck about the Constitution. He and his thug Attorney General Barr have no shame and will stop at nothing to stay in power. He may even use this as an excuse for losing. And then there's this. He may use his COVID-19 as a pretext to drop out of the race and move Pence to the top of the ticket. Pence would temporarily become president, and then Pence could preemptively pardon Trump for all his crimes. Again, though, he may have COVID-19. He probably does. But never, ever, ever take him at his word, and never, ever, ever underestimate his survival skills or the depths of his deception or his evil. What can you do today? Make your plan to vote and stick to it. Question everything. And if you and I are finally convinced he does have it, do not sit silent as he schemes how to use his illness for his benefit. And finally, on a personal note, stay alive, Mr. President. Your exit from public life must happen in the right and decent way. You have many years to live. You have a child to raise, grandchildren who need you, a base that loves you, and the families of nearly the 250,000 dead who might be alive today had you done your job, had you cared, had you not played politics with people's lives. Over 200,000 lost souls, and you knew. You told Woodward in February it was a plague. 200,000 dead because of decisions you made, because you denigrated science and ignored the doctors. I'm certain you're listening to them now. COVID must not remove you. That's our job, with a pen and a ballot. Amen to that, Michael Moore. So he's the second person. George Conway texted something over the weekend that suggests pretty much the same thing that Michael Moore just suggested. Now, I don't know how much credence to put on any of this stuff. That Trump may realize he's about to get the worst ass kicking of anybody since George McGovern at the hands of Richard Nixon. Maybe Trump knows this. Maybe Trump, although he is an ignorant savage and a king rat and a no-good bum, he still has that malignant, narcissistic thing, that horrible, toxic illness of his that I don't give a shit about. But he has it, and he's been governing from that. So maybe he knows that he does not want to suffer the humiliation that seems to be coming his way like a goddamn freight train. This morning, a new poll showed him 14 points behind Joe Biden as a result of his antics during the first so-called debate. And that was before this COVID-19 bullshit that he's working like a yo-yo. I've said before, I hope this miserable bastard has COVID-19. And I don't go so far as to wish somebody dead. I'm just saying, if that happens, well, it is what it is. Right, King Rat? Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com, and never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.